right, you ready to get started?
Yeah, you guys ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let's crack into the memory box. So this one here, this takes me all the way back. This was our original logo at Gage Strength Training. Essentially, I started as a fitness professional when I was a freshman in college. I got certified as a personal trainer, and all through college, I had a few clients here or there. I just never really thought you could do this kind of as a business. And at the time I didn't have a logo. I worked at a Gold's Gym out in Reading with a great group of employees. They had a really cool little culture out there at that Gold's Gym. And I really just did it on and off through college. And it wasn't until I graduated college, my daughter Cadence was born the day I graduated college. And I was planning to go into law enforcement, and at the time I was having a hard time finding a job, and I realized logistically it would be really tough to just be a single father and have a job in law enforcement. So I went all in on personal training, and this was one of the first things that I did. Was one of my coworkers at the Gold's Gym was a graphic designer, and he was just kind of getting started. He actually was doing it on the side. And really at the time, I just wanted to train, hardcore lifters and athletes. So that's really where that vibe came from, that, hard edge, black and red, bending barbell logo. He designed it. This was the third or fourth variation with the font that I wanted. And this is where Gage Strength Training was born. I was working at a Gold's Gym, and then I was starting to take on some of my in-home personal training clients. So obviously it's a far cry from where we are now. I learned a lot about, speaking to our target market and the clients that I really was passionate about working with. So a lot's changed over the years, but this was really where Gage Strength Training was born, right here on this, at that Gold's Gym. So, a lot of people don't know this, but the early days of Gage Strength Training started with a lot of photos like this. Training clients in their backyard, all homemade equipment. This is actually my stepsister. She was one of my first clients, her husband at the time, and a few other people in their neighborhood. But it was all homemade equipment, stuff that I could fit in my Ford Escape that I could drive around to their house, unload, train them, load back up, and head to the next client. But a lot of people don't understand that Gage Strength Training started as an in-home personal training company. That's where I really got my start. So a lot of memories with loading equipment up into the car, traveling around the mainline Philadelphia area, and training clients in their backyard. So this is a good one. So I finally took the jump, and I left Gold's Gym. I left my in-home personal training clients, and I signed a lease to open up my first, quote unquote gym. Really at the time it was not meant to be a gym. It was really just a place that I was going to train my clients, and I really wanted like a warehouse, hardcore, no frills experience. That's kind of what I really wanted at the time, and really I opened my doors and I had no clients. I opened in Westchester, a town that I had never been to in my entire life. It was just kind of a place that I found that I could afford, and it was on my route because I was still traveling a lot back and forth from Reading to the main line area. So Westchester was right off the highway. For whatever reason, I thought it was going to be a good idea to open in this area, even though I had no clients, I had no contacts there. And so I opened October 12th, 2012. All right, so that was officially, and this was a police versus fireman strongman competition that we ran in February 2013, okay? I did not have a single client between October 2012 and February 2013. right? So that was about, what is that, a 4-month period with absolutely 0 clients in the gym. I still had a lot of my in-home personal training clients. I was still working for my stepmom at her ballet shoe factory in the shipping and distribution warehouse, trying to figure out what I was gonna do with this warehouse space that I had rented, and was starting to just like buy some equipment here or there and bring it in. But this was my first shot at running a real business. I essentially put together a strongman competition between police and firefighters. I walked to the local fire departments, the local police stations, handing out flyers that looked just like this, and really pretended like I was a real business and promoted this event. We were going to benefit the I can't remember the Fallen Firefighters Foundation and the Concerns of Police Survivors charity, and we were going to raise money. And this was my first real taste of success as a business owner, because we had about 30 competitors, mostly firefighters. I developed some friendships with firefighters from the Philadelphia Fire, and it was just a great event. Nobody got hurt, so that was first and foremost the most important thing. And we raised a lot of money, and it was just like, that really excited me, and it really gave me the confidence to move forward with my business at the time and really take it seriously, because this was the first time people were really in the gym and using it as a gym. So the bad thing was I was getting a lot of people from the Philadelphia Fire Department and local law enforcement, and a lot of those guys had their own training routines and they had their own gyms that they trained at. So really didn't do anything for my business, but it motivated me and gave me a taste of what is possible with what I was doing. So this was a really special moment because it was my first taste of that success. Oh man. So this was, just to give you guys an idea of what it was like in the early days of Gage strength training. This is a homemade kettlebell, because a lot of the stuff that I was doing was all homemade. I was just making, equipment out of pieces of steel pipe and concrete and chains, and free weights that I had laying around. So this was a paint bucket that I filled with concrete and I sunk a steel handle into. It was about 80 pounds, and I used it as a kettlebell, something for farmer carries, for rows, all kinds of carries and all kinds of stuff. But this was like a lot of what we had very early days, because a lot of the steel pipe I could load, unload when I was driving places and training people in their backyards. Chains were really effective for adding weight to something like this, because obviously you can't change the weight on this. So just to give you guys an idea of what the early days were really like, a lot of homemade equipment, very dirty, very unsanitary, and a far cry from what we have here today. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun kind of making equipment and trying to figure out what I could do to save money on buying all that stuff. Oh man. So, as I got that first taste of success with that strongman competition, I realized I needed to actually get clients in the door. So what I did, what a lot of businesses were doing at the time, was, I don't even know if they're still around anymore, but I did a Groupon. And I did I offered like 10 classes for $10 or something, insanely cheap, just trying to figure out, I had no idea what I was doing. So I did this Groupon, and I landed my first client. And I'll never forget the conversation I had. This is Mindy Ross. And so Mindy called, and she called my cell phone because I didn't have a business line, I didn't have a website. And she called and she was asking about this group class that I was advertising on Groupon. And I was like, oh yeah, we have classes at 8 a.m., noon, 5 p.m., all made up. There were no classes, there was no schedule. And she was asking me questions like, oh, well, who typically goes there? What are the classes like? What times are the classes? And I was basically like, well, what time would you want to train? And she was like, well, 5 p.m., then I get my kids off the bus or whatever. So it was like, just, we have a 5 p.m. class. That's amazing. So I told her we had a handful of clients that were in there, and she scheduled her first workout for the next week. And immediately panic set in, because I had no clients, and I didn't want her to think she was walking into this weird warehouse where nobody actually worked out. So I called everybody that I knew. Now, At the time, I had just graduated college really recently, so a lot of like my high school friends weren't back in the area, my college friends were not in the area, so I really didn't have many people in the area. So I essentially called everybody that I knew that could possibly show up. I think I got a crew of like 3 or 4 people that, you know, kind of agreed to go along with this with me. I was like, listen, we gotta pretend that you guys are members of the gym. This is my first shot at like really training a client. And she came, there was about 5 or 6 people in the class maybe. My stepsister, buddy Matt Cantafio that I played Little League Baseball with. Another guy that I played college baseball with, Chris Ray, I think was in that class. But it was, you know, we had a great workout. I couldn't convince them to keep coming back because it was kind of a big effort for them. So the next time Mindy came back, I don't think we had any clients. And it really just turned into me training Mindy for a few weeks on my own until I could get a few more clients. And we did. You know, the Groupon trickled a few people here or there. And we actually built like a really solid, you know, initial crew of clients. You know, a few names that pop off my head. Actually, I have a couple of them here. We had a woman named Andrea, Jess, Maggie, and you know what's funny is it was still all the homemade equipment. So there's tire flips, sledgehammers, a lot of chains, a lot of ropes, a lot of concrete kettlebells, a lot of, you know, steel galvanized pipe that you would build your own dumbbells out of. But a really solid crew that kind of, you know, I think they felt like they were a part of something special because it was so new and nobody knew about it. So it turned into like a really, really good crew of people over those early days. The problem was I essentially didn't get paid by any of them because the Groupon deal was so cheap that they basically got like 4 months of workouts for like $10. So luckily a lot of them, you know, signed up after that, became a member, but I still had to maintain the jobs that I had outside of here. I was still maintaining at the time my in-home personal training clients just to get by. And I essentially put one class on our schedule, like 5 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We did a 30-minute, at the time we called it Body Blitz. And that was like the first time I really had clients at the gym. It was just a mix of convincing Mindy that this was a gym, even though it was just a couple friends of mine, a Groupon that was a horrible business move, and just trying to provide a really great experience and amazing workout for this small group of people. And it has grown since then. Hey guys, thank you for joining me while I share 10 years of memories from Gage Strength Training. Listen, this month is our 10-year anniversary at Gage Strength Training. So for the next 20 people that contact me, we are giving away a month's membership for only $10. So for the first 20 people, you can get an entire month of training for only $10. If you contact me at devin@gagestrengthtraining.com, we will give you an entire month of training for $10 for the entire month.